Welcome back to the Triple Threat Podcast. My name is William Ezel, and just now you heard a little bit of a snippet from Rod Simba's album Lunar Realms. That was far away. If you want to check it out, you can check it out at Spotify. I will add a link to it in the description after this video goes live. If you haven't watched our Rod Simba video, go check it out. It's always fun talking to Rod. We love Rod. While you're down there, feel free to subscribe. It means a lot to us. It's just one click, but it means a lot to us trying to get to 100 subs. Big milestone there. But let's get into it. Today we're doing a first round mock draft. All 30 teams. Last time we did a 14 lottery team mock draft, but we're doing a full thing today. Ishan's been a busy boy over there working on his mock draft. This is his pride and joy. I know you put a lot of time into this one. Let's get straight into it. Not waste your time. Number 1.
All right. Number 1, it's pretty easy. Detroit, Cade Cunningham, guard at Oklahoma State. And there's so much to love about this guy, from his playmaking to his scoring to even his on-ball defense. He's 6'8", gives me hints of Ben Simmons, but with a jumper, and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, but bigger and stronger. And for Detroit, this is big. They haven't had a face of the franchise in years, and Cade will be that guy. He'll be that identity, and hopefully he'll bring playoff basketball back to Detroit.
All right, move on. Number 2. Is this more of the same from the last time?
Yeah, so Evan Mobley, once again, from Houston, he is just a great pick. And even if this was last year's draft, maybe not with Zion, but he was a better prospect than John, in my opinion. Mobley would be going 1 or 2, at least in the last couple, like the last 5 or 6 drafts. And I think he's the best center prospect since Joel Embiid in 2014. So the big selling point on his game is his defense, whether it is perimeter defense, where he's guarding quicker wings or guards and uses his fluidity, agility, and coordination, which is just unreal given his 7'6" wingspan frame, to guard the perimeter, or it's as a shot blocker where he averaged 3 blocks per game at USC. And then on the offensive end, there's a lot of potential here. He's not a shooter. He showed some flashes of shooting. Maybe he can develop into like a Nikola Jokic type shooter. So like just steadily improving over time, getting much better. And then he is a really good ball handler, has a tight handle given his position and size, but definitely needs to tighten it a little bit more. And he can be a good passer just around the block or around the elbow, like a Domantas Sabonis, like a Bam Adebayo. And I think he's just a great modern-day big to have that can transform your franchise on both the offensive and defensive end. And let's not forget, he still has a lot of potential left. He is very, very skinny. He's like paper thin. So if he bulks up like how Anthony Davis did, we can even see better production. So Mobley, a lot of people want Jalen Green going to Houston, but I think Mobley is the safer pick and the better pick right now.
So we're not going to spend the next a lot of time on the next 2 picks, because if you want to hear our analysis on that, it's going to be the exact same in the last mock draft video. So let's move on to 3 and 4, because it's the same as last time, isn't it?
Yeah, so it is the same as last time. It's just Oklahoma City trades the 6th, 16th, and 35th picks to Cleveland for pick 3. They trade up and take Jalen Green. He'll be that explosive scorer that can really benefit off of Shai Gilgeous-Alexander's playmaking and secondary scoring skills. He does need to work on bulking up, only 165 pounds, which is not good for durability or driving or defense. But just as a pure scorer, he definitely has the perimeter shooting capabilities, the mid-range game, and of course the explosiveness and athleticism to make an impact as a 20-25 points per game scorer in the next couple of years.
All
And
right.
then
Number 4.
4, Jalen Suggs, taking adding Gonzaga to Toronto. This makes so much sense for me just because like he is a guy that can totally replace Kyle Lowry. He can learn a lot from Kyle Lowry as a well-rounded point guard, and he can benefit off of Fred VanVleet a lot because both of them are good on-ball defenders. Both of them are great playmakers. but Van Vliet is definitely the better, more efficient scorer and shooter. But Suggs will come in immediately as a playmaker. He'll make some crazy passes. He'll do a lot in transition, and that's where his best basketball is, just in transition as a passer or as a finisher. Then on defense, he's very athletic, and he will just be a pesky, hard nosed on ball defender that really can only guard the one, but still just a solid defender there.
All right, before we get into
So
number five, just wanted to say Rod Simba's album is now linked in the description below, so go check out Lunar Realms when you have the chance. It's a great listen, around 22 minutes for the full album. Definitely worth a listen. So let's get to number five. Orlando Magic are making their first selection, and who do you have them taking here?
So in most mock drafts and in my old ones, I hadn't taken Jonathan Kuminga, but after what I saw from Scotty Barnes at his workout, I was just so impressed. I couldn't help myself but to take Barnes at 5. And I think that Barnes is clearly leapfrogged Kuminga as the fifth best prospect in this class. So while this may come as a surprise to a lot of people, let me just tell you why. First of all, he measured extremely well at the combine. 6'10", 7'3" wingspan, had the largest hands of basically anybody in the draft, whether like just as a combination of length and width. And then in some of the drills, like lane agility and lateral movement, where I thought he'd struggle a little bit, he killed it, ranking in the top 10 for both. And also, he improved his jump shot, which is so crucial. Because back in March and April, I saw a weird kind of two motion jump shot with his elbow kind of out like this and up forward. And he was not shooting well. 29% from three, 62% from the line. He really fixed his jump shot, made it look more fluid, made it look like one motion, fixed his elbow placement, and that just allowed him to shoot lights out at the combine. So I don't think he's going to be an immediate shooter, but I'm happy to see that he has the work ethic and the self-awareness to say, hey, I'm not a good shooter. I got to fix that. So let me get in the gym. Let me redefine my form a little bit. Let me refine my mechanics and let me improve in this. And he really showed that. And on Draft Express's Instagram post, he even comment, how does the jumper look? Which kind of gives me a hint at, oh, he like really, really is proud of his improvement as a shooter. So big ups to Barnes for that. But just what we saw in college, elite defender, can guard the 1 through 4. Orlando ranked 26 in defense. And then playmaking, he has that Draymond Green type potential. And Barnes, I don't know if he has like an All-NBA MVP type ceiling, but he can definitely be a multiple-time All-Star with a Draymond Green glue guy on a championship type role.
For sure. I think this is a very interesting pick. I really just like to see the willingness to adapt and improve. That really defines a good player because in the NBA, talent doesn't win, work ethic does. Talent wins when work ethic doesn't work. So, or I messed that saying up, but you know what I'm saying here. So, moving on, we got number 6, Jonathan Kuminga, going to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Break this one down. Did Kuminga do anything wrong, or was it just Scotty Barnes being a better prospect?
It was more of Scotty Barnes being a better prospect and me revisiting Kuminga a little bit. He is a very good player. Don't get me wrong. He reclassified from class of 2021 to class of 2020 and then immediately played against professional players. And that's what we have to understand. He struggled in the G League a little bit, but he was playing against professionals, guys that have been in the NBA, guys that have been overseas. And it was a big jump for him. So I just wanted to kind of put that out there because I am seeing a little bit of Kuminga slander just around draft boards, around like the media. But I just wanted to make sure that like he is still a very good player. But in Cleveland, this is a guy that they could take at number 3, but they get him at 6. On the offensive end, he's raw. He can be a ball handler. He makes good plays, but needs to improve as a shooter and not rely on his strength and athleticism as much when finishing, using the hesitation move, using the spin move, using the crossover a little bit more. And then on defense, he has a lot of untapped potential there. just as a multi-position defender with his crazy, unreal athleticism, probably the best in the class, and some good instincts, especially with defensive rebounds and things like that. So Kuminga, my opinion, definitely not a good of a prospect as Scotty Barnes is, or maybe even Franz Wagner, for example. But the potential is definitely there. It's sky high, and I see him fitting well, at least as a defensive specialist alongside Isaac Okoro in Cleveland.
Kaminga is definitely a raw prospect. Put up good numbers in the G League as a 18-year-old, around 16 point. But you're gonna worry about that shooting ability.
Mm-hmm.
Shot 60% from the line, mid 20s from three. Not the greatest, but that's not his forte. That's not really what he is as a prospect.
Yeah.
But in the modern NBA, we've seen how impactful just having the ability to be a threat from three, and he's definitely a threat. He took 5 threes a game in the G League.
You need to have that confidence.
Yeah, especially. I think that opens up the door for so many things. Like, look at Giannis. People will close out on him, or Joel Embiid. They close out super hard when he's out the perimeter because they know that there's a threat to shoot. It may not be a high percentage or a nice efficient shot, but the ability to have that threat makes a defender's job so much harder. And I think that ability to shoot, or just ability to want to shoot, is really important for him. And he just gotta develop and work on a jump shot because you can fix your mechanics if you have the work ethic and you have the time and diligence, you can make a jump shot work.
Yeah. And I think that in Cleveland, Okoro struggled a little bit, but he can shoot. I think Sexton, obviously, he can shoot. Garland can shoot. There's spacing options there. And I think that with the other scoring options, he's not pressured to be the number one option like he would in Orlando. And I think that his playmaking skills will definitely be on display. And if he needs to make the occasional shot, he has the confidence and the ability to do so. It might not be totally refined yet, but at least it's there. So moving on, Golden State, they are picking at number 7, but we have another trade here, second trade of the day. They trade pick 7 and James Wiseman to Toronto for Pascal Siakam. Siakam is obviously a very well-rounded, scoring, offensive-minded power forward, but can play good team defense too, like he did in Toronto. And he fits very well um, in Golden State. And Golden State, they're still in win now mode. They don't need pick 7, and they don't necessarily need James Wiseman, especially when you have a great all-defensive player in Draymond Green still on the floor. You could run a lineup with next year with Steph, Clay Wiggins, Draymond, and Siakam, or Siakam and Draymond. It'll be small, but there's team defense, there's off-ball ability, and there's a lot of offensive firepower to go around. So I think that Toronto, they get another pick, and they get James Wiseman to bolster the front court because they lost Ibaka, they lost Marcus Gasol, they replaced him with Aaron Baines, which is just not going to work. And so they get a nice young center who has a lot of potential, and they get to take one of my favorite players in the draft, Franz Wagner, to replace Pascal Siakam. So Wagner is a three-point sniper, 38% from the line, 38% from three, not the line. He's a good shooter, trust me. And 82% from 82% from the line, 38% from three. We got it.
Finally,
Right.
yeah.
We got it.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting trade there. I think it's a winner for both sides, just to align with their direction. I know last time you had Golden State trading for Bradley Beal. How do these two trades differ, and which one do you think is a better overall outcome for Golden State?
I think the Siakam trade is a little bit of a better outcome, fits more with the team, and they get to give up less assets. And my issue with Beal is defense and how well he can fit into a team where he would be the number 2 or number 3 option at times. So I think that Siakam is a better fit. His value, he is a very good player. He had a down season. His trade value is at its lowest, while Beal's is arguably at its highest in his whole career. So you're buying low with the potential to reap all of Pascal Siakam's benefits that he had last year. And instead of just buying high and taking a chance on an aging Bradley Beal. And then Wiseman didn't really fit well with the team. I never even liked the pick to begin with. They didn't need pick 7. But this way they can keep Jordan Poole, they can keep Nico Mannion, they can keep Eric Pascal, they can keep Kevon Looney, because those are nice young bench pieces that are slowly growing into very solid role players.
And just talk about Franz Wagner for a little bit more because I know this is one of your favorite players. I know you gave a lot of analysis on this last time, but just give a little recap for the people that may not know much about Franz and might associate him a little bit more with his brother Mo.
So shooter, that's there. Very good playmaker for his frame, 6'9", small forward, power forward, and he makes the right reads, makes the right passes. He's a really good off ball player, so he knows where to be when the ball isn't in his hands, and he knows that he can make an impact without getting too many touches, which is something that I really, really like to see as a fan. And then on defense, he's versatile. He can guard multiple positions. He's a great off ball defender. He is very intelligent, high IQ type player. He has a very high floor. He's still a sophomore in college, so there's a ceiling that is definitely much higher. And he'll be a do it all forward that's somewhat similar to Pascal Siakam, but a little bit better if he reaches his full potential, in my opinion.
That is a very bold statement right there.
I think so. I love Franz Wagner.
Because I know last year before the season was starting, we were talking about Siakam was a underrated player and a potential All NBA player last season. Especially,
Yeah,
we love Pascal Siakam, so that's it's a bit surprising to hear you say that. I know you loved Franz Wagner. I didn't know it was that much.
is
Um,
that much.
so let's move on. Number 8, Atlanta Magic making their second pick of the night, and you've got a little bit of a riser here. So explain this selection.
So another guy that I did a little bit more research looking into, and that's James Bouknight. Great scorer, obviously. We know what he can do there. High flying player, great finisher, but he like Barnes just completely improved his shot. His shot looked so much better. He was shooting lights out at his pro day, lights out at the combine, and it wasn't just like stationary threes. No, it was moving shots, turnaround corner threes. Some of the craziest shots that I've seen. He was hitting them, shot literally the leather off the ball, and I think that he has solidified himself as a top 5 pick here. And I like him over other guards like Keon Johnson or even Moses Moody or Chris Duarte or Trey Mann, just because he has a lot of athleticism. He has the college production, the natural scoring ability. He has the ability to shoot, and he's pretty long, he's pretty wiry. He has that defensive potential there too. So I think that Orlando, you're getting two guys that already have a lot to bring to the table immediately, but can elevate their games to totally new levels if Barnes unlocks his shooting and if Bouknight unlocks his defensive ability.
No, this really creates a good lineup for this team going forward, aligning with their young stars, or not stars, but their young solid players they have on their roster already. Jonathan Isaac, Mo Bamba, Cole Anthony, Markel Fultz. There's probably a couple more I'm forgetting here, but they've got some young players, and these two selections really help solidify that 4 to 5 year plan they have going on there. I just have to get the coaching search right. Um,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
you you heard Rod say it yesterday or on Saturday. The
Penny
Penny
Hardaway.
Hardaway just got linked to them. So
Yeah, Memphis. So,
shout out Rod for calling that one.
but there's a lot of interest there. He initially wanted the job. He just said yesterday that he won't pursue the Orlando Magic coaching job. He'll just return back at Memphis. But Penny Hardaway was a guy to look out for. Darvin Ham, a player development specialist who's been a longtime assistant for Coach Budenholzer in Atlanta and Milwaukee. Another guy to look at. Definitely helped with Giannis's development, Middleton's development. Um, Even guys like Dante DiVincenzo or Pat Connaughton who have worked their way into being solid role players. But moving on, Sacramento, 30th ranked defense last year. Not a great 3-point shooting team, especially with Buddy Hield on the verge of leaving. Go ahead, get your man Moses Moody. Very high floor player, but still intriguing. So he obviously brings shooting, shot at a very high clip, helped Arkansas become a top 10 team in the country last year and make an Elite Eight appearance for the first time in definitely a while. I don't remember Arkansas making an Elite Eight.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah. But on defense, he is a good on ball defender. He's only 6'4.5", but has a 7'1" wingspan, which is something that definitely intrigues me. And he has the IQ and the ability to play in a cohesive unit, the ability to play with other players around him and not demand too much. That IQ is definitely there on both ends. And I just hope he develops other skills like playmaking, some off ball defense, because I can see him becoming like a Mikal Bridges type player. And that is something that every championship contender wants. But if you look at this, that makes it 3 players with Moody going at 9 from this Montverde team last year that are selected in the top 10 of the draft. Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, and Moses Moody. So think about that. 3 players from the same high school team all went one and done, and they're going to be selected in this one draft here.
Kind
Isn't
of
that
like a
crazy?
Sierra Canyon kind of thing going on.
Yeah, and you know what's crazy? There's one more player that we're going to mention that was also on that team too, but we'll get to that later.
Imagine one of our schools play Montverde. I mean, that would be just obliteration.
You know the crazy? They were so deep. Cade Cunningham averaged like 11 points per game. Scotty Barnes averaged like 10 points per game,
Yeah, I
and
know.
like Moody averaged like 8 or 9. Like they weren't scoring that much. They just filled up the stat sheet and they would just pass to whoever was there. That's probably the best high school basketball team we've seen since like Chino Hills. But the CNBA here, we've graduated. But New Orleans, your team, keeping it the same. Corey Kispert, man,
Is it? Oh, did you have Kispert last time? I thought you had Moses Moody.
I did. No, because I had Book Night, then I had Moody. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You were much higher on Kispert than I was, but Moody's gone, so they take Kispert, better shooter, maybe not as good on defense, but he tested well in those lateral mobility drills, which I was a big fan of. So Kispert definitely just is a necessity for this team. Opens up the floor for Zion, opens up the floor for Ingram, and what you see is what you get. I don't know how much of a ceiling he has compared to Moody or Booknight or some of the other guys, but just at face value, you already know what he's going to give you, and he's going to give you elite shooting, which is valuable regardless of the team in the NBA.
Exactly. That was kind of my philosophy on why I'm kind of parading Corey Kispert or trying to get him to go to the Pelicans because the thing is that the Pelicans don't need a player with some ridiculously high ceiling and boomer bust factor. The Pelicans just need someone that they can rely on, a reliable shooter to come into the team, space the floor, and really help develop Zion as a player just through the floor spacing. I kind of look at the Hawks as a philosophy for the team. You look at the rest of the roster around them. I mean, there's Trey Young, and then there's a bunch of solid players, a bunch of really really good players. There's not a single All Star on that team. I mean, just look at the. Not even Trey Young was an All Star, but I mean, whether we want to, he really was an All Star, but in our hearts he was.
Yeah.
But just look at that roster. That roster consisted of really good players who can shoot, know their job, and can play with heart and hustle. The Pelicans are a team that has none of that, no direction, a bunch of guys, and they're all just kind of playing basketball out there. It's not a team. So what they need is a coach that can rally them together, players that know their role, like a Josh Hart. Sadly, he's going to leave. But yeah, I would take a team of 15 Josh Harts, and Corey Kispert's very much a Josh Hart kind of pick.
Yeah, definitely good on defense. And moving on, we got Charlotte. This is definitely a shakeup. The rest of these picks. just because I don't think we've really gone over them. But Charlotte at 11, they're going to take arguably my biggest riser in the draft, and that is Kai Jones. And when I watched him, I realized how much potential this has, especially with LaMelo Ball. So Kai Jones in Texas, he was kind of in a really crowded front court with guys like Greg Brown and Jericho Sims, all high flying athletic freaks that were clogging up the paint. But Jones thrives in transition, and Charlotte had the fourth best transition offense last year. So you're adding more fuel to an already large fire. And then on defense, Jones can defend multiple positions and has that athleticism to develop as a rim protector. And while the spacing wasn't great at Texas, he still thrived as a finisher. And I think that these are all translatable skills to the league. And he is playing with one of the best playmakers in the NBA, LaMelo Ball, someone that will give him a lot of opportunities, especially as a lob threat. And then off ball, he's smart, good cutter. He's a confident shooter, not the best shooter, but at least he's confident. At least he's willing to take the shot. Just a really good overall defender. And I wouldn't say a ball handler yet because he needs to tighten it, but he does have the confidence and the ability to handle the ball at times. So this man came from a long jumper to an elite basketball player, and I think that he fits so well in Charlotte that really just needs a front court star.
Exactly. I think the pick makes sense here. I know a lot of people aren't going to really understand this pick purely because of the value standpoint and where they've seen players be mocked currently. But let's move on. Number 12, someone who we've had pretty much pencil into this selection for quite a while, just purely
Yep.
because of the fit and just because of the player himself. The everything makes sense here. So the San Antonio Spurs taking Alperen Sengun from Besiktas in Turkey. So tell us a little bit about Alperen because I know we've talked a lot about him in the past on our last mock draft because both of us are quite high on him as
Yep.
a prospect. So give us a little background for those who didn't watch last episode.
Just interior offensive beast. He'll match well with Jakob Pertl, as Pertl is more the defensive specialist. And then he also brings good playmaking for his size to the table. He has that Domantas Sabonis type potential, which is always great to have. And he has some production to back it up. A lot of these EuroLeague prospects are picked purely off of potential, but Sengun at 18 won the EuroLeague, or not EuroLeague, the Turkish League MVP. Still a very, very good league. I was taking a look at some of the rosters, a lot of names that I recognized just from NBA teams, NBA G League teams, or even just like in like Olympic teams, things like
Or
that.
just
So
college.
yeah, or college too. Yeah. So Sengun is just a very good offensive minded, kind of old school vintage big that the Spurs will have fun with. They love their international prospects. They love to not always conform to the new trends in the league, like to go old school a little bit. And this is a perfect way to kill two birds with one stone, if you know what I mean. So this is just a perfect San Antonio type pick. And then moving on, another.
I want to get a little bit more about Alperen because
Oh yeah, yeah.
he,
Go
he's
ahead. Go
he's kind
ahead.
of my guy. So if people don't realize how dominant he was in the Turkish league. As an 18-year-old, he came in 28 minutes a game, 19 points, uh, 9 total rebounds, 2.5 assists. He was exceptional. 81% from the free throw line. He was dominant, and those are numbers better than Luka Doncic when he was at Real Madrid. Same age. Obviously, there's a little bit of a difference in talent, but there is no knock on the Turkish league because
No, not at all.
Turkey won the Euros for basketball. They are a basketball powerhouse. They are a great conference. And looking at other prospects, Deni Avdi last year, second tier of the Greek league, second tier of the Israeli league. Giannis Antetokounmpo, second tier of the Greek league. Like these
Jokic,
players coming out put
yeah.
up poor stats in poor conferences. while Sengun is putting up dominant stats, MVP stats, and arguably one of the best divisions out there against a grown man as an 18-year-old.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to worry about that three-point ability. Took less than one a game, shooting 20%. That's not really the name of his game. That's why he's not a top 10 pick, obviously. Because if he's a big guy that's that dominant on the paint and can shoot, that's just something that's lethal and something that would be coveted as a top 5 selection. So that's the reason why he's not as high. But in Turkey, his stats were top in every position. He was top in field goals. He was second in free throw attempts. He was first in offensive rebounds, second in total rebounds, eighth in steals, second in blocks, first in points, 10th in free throw percentage, first in field goal percentage, second in points per game, second in blocks per game. I mean, he was dominant. 70% true shooting percentage. I mean, he was just insane. As an 18-year-old in a top division against grown men, he is going to be ready immediately, and he'll be a great contributor.
Yeah.
His ceiling won't be incredibly high because of that lack of a jump shot, but he'll be a great player, and I have no qualms with San Antonio taking him here.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on, we got Indiana. They take Josh Giddey. And part of my reasoning for this was I didn't pull the trigger on this time, but I've been seeing some potential trades revolving Malcolm Brogdon and revolving Ben Simmons to Indiana, which I don't love the fit there for the Pacers. They get a really good defender, a new identity for the team, and Brogdon will be perfect in Philadelphia, in my opinion. And so taking a guy that could potentially replace Brogdon, like Josh Giddey, is just another piece of insurance. And even if him and Brogdon played together, I still think that Brogdon's efficiency will pair really nicely with Giddey's playmaking ability because Giddey in Australia, in the NBL, the same league that produced LaMelo Ball and RJ Hampton, averaged 11, 7, and 7. 6'8", just insane playmaker, insane IQ, great feel for the game, some inside scoring ability, a little bit of craftiness, especially at the rim. Needs to work on his jump shot. Obviously needs to get in the gym, needs to be a little bit more athletic given his size, but I think that Giddey's overall IQ feel for the game can make an immediate contribution to Indiana, who wants to get back in the playoffs sometime soon.
And you're definitely going to like that size for his defensive ability as well. He's a very versatile player. I think that he'll be a great fit for this team. And this team is someone they've got a great roster in Indiana, in my opinion. They've got 4 players that are on that borderline all-star. They're not good enough to be an all-star, but they're good and they're very good.
Yeah.
They've got Brogdon. They've got obviously Karis LeVert. They've got Miles Turner, and then they've got Sabonis, their star player. But all this team needs is a star player to build their team around. They need their guy. Sabonis isn't that guy. He's a great second option. I think if they traded for Ben Simmons, would be I don't know how it would be. I don't think that Simmons can lead a team. I don't think that's his personality.
He's more of a supersized role player.
Exactly. And then that trade, if you traded Brogdon for Ben Simmons, it would be just like Josh Richardson for Seth Curry. I mean, everyone's like Josh Richardson's a better player. Josh Richardson's a better player. I mean, Seth Curry was exceptional because of fit and shooting ability and ability to be efficient, effective, and pretty much it. I mean,
During the second round, like when Ben Simmons was subbed onto the court, I'm like, let's go. When Embiid was subbed onto the court, I'm like, okay, we just got to lock in. And then when Seth Curry was subbed in onto the court, I'm like, oh god, it's over. It's Curry time. He's playing like his brother. So we all understand how fit plays such an integral role when building a team, just as opposed to willy-nilly just getting as much talent as possible. Something that New Orleans might want to check out there. I'm sorry, Eric Bledsoe is not a shooting guard. I don't care how big he is. He's not a shooting.
It was a bad phase. Don't worry about it.
But at least you guys have the assets. At least you guys have talent there to flip into a better fit, which is something that Philadelphia has done pretty well when whether it's drafting a guy like Maxey or trading Richardson for Curry. They have
Horford for
improved.
Green.
Horford for Green, yeah.
That was two moves that we both said last offseason. They lost the value card every single time. They lost value, but they've
Yeah.
gained fit and they become a better team for it. That's what we said then. Stands true today. I mean, fit beats value every day because value isn't going to win you games.
Hmm.
Getting the best value in a trade possible isn't going to. Oh, they had more value than us. All right, we got to lose them now. No, that's not how it works.
It's all about cohesiveness.
So let's move
But
on. Golden State, 14. You're going to have a lot of explaining to do in this one. This is going to make a lot of people unhappy with this selection.
why? Because he slid down this far?
Yeah. And a Golden State, who I wanted them to take at 7. Like, ooh,
Yeah, a lot of
they
people
got
have
lucky
Golden
here.
State taking this guy at 7, but they get lucky. They take Davion Mitchell here, just a guy that can immediately fit with their team, just in case Steph, Wiggins, or Clay need to rest. Great defender, good playmaker. Interesting shooting numbers, a little bit suspect given his free throw percentage, but he still shot 44% from three with volume, and he's definitely improved as a shot creator. He is 22, which is a bit of a downside, but elevated his game in the tournament, which is so important. I think that like any guy that's able to face pressure like that and actually elevate his game will do well to some degree in the NBA. And I have a lot of faith in Mitchell here. And he's pretty undersized. He's 6 feet tall, but he was playing shooting guard minutes most of the time. He was more of a combo guard, if anything, but Jared Butler was the primary point guard back in Baylor. And so I think he can fit next to Curry because that's a question that a lot of people have. He's undersized. Is he going to be able to play the two? I think he'll be able to at the next level. But Mitchell, 14, it's more of a win now selection rather than a potential type guy. But before we move in past the lottery, just wanted to take a quick look at the chat. We have,
My man, Covey Dodge out there. Hawks and 6 for sure.
do you know Cubby Dodge?
Yeah, he's the GOAT, man. We love Covey Dodge. We're not going to give him the hard plug like we do with Rod, but he does have some good music on Spotify if you want to check out Young Covey.
All right, because I know Dylan Patel. He also said Hawks and 6. So, DP, man, I got you, brother. Hawks and 6. Bro, you should get a comment filter. Nah, man, there's no filter in this. Say what the hell you want.
No, we remember DN in the chat the other day.
The end in the chat, Africa Bombada.
Africa, oh, dude, that was the GOAT.
Dude, that was hilarious. But if
Let's
it
talk
gets
about
out of
Davey a little bit more after that.
we still got to keep it a little fun. But now that we're past the lottery, we'll speed it up a little bit. But Washington, they take Trey Mann, just an elite scorer, elite shooter, a guy that really clutched up in the tournament for Florida. And he'll be great in case Beal gets traded, in case Westbrook gets hurt again. And this backcourt in Washington, as good as it is, the depth is pretty paper thin. So even if you have Beal playing small forward and Mann coming in to play one of the guard spots, that's not that bad. It's great offensively, and he'll always be a good piece off the bench because I think Washington does want to run it back one more year before they blow everything up. And then 16, Cleveland, they take best available here. They take Keon Johnson. They missed out on Jalen Green. They took Kuminga, but they get another guard who will immediately make defensive contributions and has top 10 player in this class, top 5 player in this class type upside. He's the guy that kind of fell due to fit and me not being as high on raw prospects with oozing potential as more established names like a Josh Giddey or Sengun or a Davion Mitchell, but there's no telling what Keon Johnson can do. He can either flop and just be a freak, or he can use his athleticism and his already good defensive ability to elevate his game even more and become a star player in Cleveland.
I mean, we see the 15, the 16 picks become great players in the draft all the time. The Kawhi Leonards, the Donovan Mitchells, but I mean that's the exact reason why it's potential first. You're gonna look at those players, and yes, they have the upside, yes, they have the ability, But the teams in the lottery, they're going to need someone that's a little bit more consistent. Yeah, the boomer bust is great and all, but Keon Johnson's going to have to go to a team that's either completely in a rebuild that has no chance, and those teams are at the top of the lottery. The teams at the bottom of the lottery aren't going to take a risk like that because they need just a solid player. So
No, especially like Indiana, who wants to get back in the playoffs. Golden State wants to get back in the playoffs. Charlotte, San Antonio, even Sacramento or Toronto. Like they want to get back into contention, and that's not going to help them.
So it's either the best teams or the worst teams are going to take these boomer bust players. The Nuggets have been doing a great job at it for a while with MPJ and RJ Hampton and Bol Bol. So the Cavs, I think, are going to get a really good player here. But it's going to be hard for to get guard minutes there. We saw what happened to Kevin Porter Jr. there. So
Yeah, but at least he has defensive contribute. Like at least Keon can come in off
yeah,
the bench as a defender, because KPJ was just another offensive weapon. But moving on, Memphis, they also need some help at the guard. They were a really good defensive team last year, even with Jaren Jackson struggling. I think they'll improve on that end. But on the offensive end, we saw how good Dylan Brooks can be on offense. We obviously know how John Moran can be. But if one of those two goes down, you want to have that insurance. You want to have a guy off the bench who can be a microwave scorer. And that's where Chris Duarte comes in. He's kind of like Kispert, where you're looking at him at face value. You see what you get. I don't know how much growth there is, but he's 22. He shot 44% from three last year. He shot really well from the line too. And he was just lighting up the Pac-12 with Oregon. Really fun to watch. We saw what Peyton Pritchard did for Boston. I think that Chris Duarte can have that similar effect down in Memphis.
all right, so let's move on to number 17. Are we on now? Or 18 now. Usman
Yeah.
Garuba from Real Madrid going to OKC Thunder. I love this pick. I think this pick makes a lot of sense for their timeline as well. We said this last time on the podcast. We wish he stayed another year out of Real Madrid like Luka did, spend 3 years there, because he didn't make that leap last year with the increased workload. He didn't take an improvement in points, actually had a slight decrease. Didn't get that workload, the usage that we wanted to see from him. And that makes him such a risky prospect to take. Yeah, there showed flashes, there's some ability there, but he hasn't established himself on the highest level enough to warrant a top 10 selection. Like, if you want to be an international prospect and you want to come into the NBA draft, you have to be putting up double digits in points or double digits in some sort of category or blowing the roof off in some sort of way to be able to be considered in that top 10. And Usman just doesn't have that yet. So, great player with a lot of potential, but needs time to develop. Hasn't had that yet. Incredibly young, 18 years old, going to a team with 19 first-round picks in the next 6 years. Definitely a team that's willing to take a risk on a player like this and has the ability to take a risk with a player like this, and who could get minutes pretty soon to help his development, because this team doesn't have a lot of depth at the five.
No, they traded away Al Horford. They traded away Moses Brown. So they have a clear need at the five. And one thing that we need to just take a step back and look at is how good Oklahoma City's player development system is, because it is actually top of the line. Theo Maladon, Moses Brown,
Lou Dort.
they were not. Oh, Lou Dort too. Not highly regarded as prospects, either second round or undrafted, but they've come in, made impact as a role player, and I think that Garuba will have that similar pathway where he'll immediately get minutes, he'll immediately get experience, he'll struggle, but he'll slowly begin to find his way. He's an athletic freak with, in my opinion, kind of like Bam Adebayo potential, where he is a very versatile defender, elite rim protector, and can pass the ball, which would just be great with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Jalen Green. Remember, OKC takes Jalen Green at 3. And I think that, let's just say he becomes a really, really solid role player that's still valuable for a championship contending team in the next 5 to 6 years. So Garuba, I do like the fit. There's a clear need here. OKC's player development system is some of the best in the league. So I think that if there's any team that can extract that talent out of the potential, it is OKC.
Let's move on. Number 19. One of my favorite players of bias reasons, though. Moving on to New York Knicks with Cam Thomas. Give a little bit of a breakdown on Cam Thomas because I've got one thing I want to highlight at the end, but go ahead and talk about the guy at Oak Hill.
So Cam Thomas is one of my favorite players too. He completely just came into LSU, not extremely high expectations. He's 4-star recruit, so maybe not making an impact right away, but he lit up the SEC. You may look at his efficiency numbers and be like, oh, well, they're not that good. It's just empty stats on a trash team, but he was carrying a lot of that
Trash
offensive.
team, come on. They went far in the tournament. I mean, far in the SEC tournament.
Okay, yeah, I won't say trash.
They were a good team. They were a
Okay,
good
okay,
team.
solid
One
team.
one games of the tournament. Come on, man.
All right, okay,
Disrespectful.
not a bad team, but he was carrying a lot of that offensive load. He was the guy there, and when you're just immediately thrusted into that as a freshman, a lot of people collapse. But Cam Thomas stayed resilient, played his ass off, just had an excellent season, and I think that being able to just come in, get a bucket is such an important skill, regardless of how else you do in other categories. I have him going to the Knicks, who definitely need some guard help and some bench scoring because Elfrid Payton in the playoffs was just, yeah, not really getting anything done. They swung and missed on Dennis Smith, so they're looking for a new guard and they're looking for some extra offensive help, and that's what you get in Cam Thomas.
I mean, the man's a scorer. 5 games last year of his 29 under 20 points, and they were all above 17. The guy scores. The guy scored 30 points in the tournament against Michigan on an efficient scoring load, 88% from the line. He can shoot really well. I mean, the 3 point percentage isn't great, but just seeing that free throw percentage gives you a lot of confidence in what he can do as a player. Um,
Yep.
First in offensive win shares, fifth in player efficiency in the SEC, first in points per game, second in total win shares. Just his efficiency is not bad. He's a great scorer, second in turnover percentage, but first in points produced, second in usage, first in offensive box plus minus. Just really effective player, and can get you a bucket immediately. And for a New York Knicks team that didn't have anyone score over 20 besides Julius Randle, someone who can come in the backcourt and just be a good scorer is something this team desperately needs. Because this backcourt for the New York Knicks is probably their weakness.
Yeah, definitely. And just another great option there. Moving on to my Atlanta Hawks. It's crazy to think that we're picking at 20, given how far we've gone. Potential finals run, and we're still at 20.
Hey,
Just
you gotta take one step at a time. The one step at a time. The potential is
a click to the live stream tab and look at what Dylan Patel and Kavi Dodge said.
I mean, yeah, they did say Hawks in six, but
They spoke it into existence.
I'll speak it in Hawks and six as well. I mean, it's
All
coming,
right.
it's happening. But
Yeah, for sure. Um, moving on though, Jared Butler, just a guy that, in my opinion, is a lottery talent, but had a heart condition. He is on. He's viewing getting checked out by physicians right now to see if he can actually play. He has not been able to get on the court for any of his workouts or anything like that. But in college, he was everywhere. Big 12 player of the year, I believe. But let's just start off with his shooting and scoring. Very efficient perimeter guy. Sometimes get in, make the occasional floater. Excellent playmaker. He was making plays for guys like Davion Mitchell. Who's the dude in the mullet? You know what I'm talking about from Baylor?
the white guy, I know who
Oh, Matthew Mayer.
I know
Matthew
exactly who
Mayer.
you're talking about.
Yeah, Mark Vidal, guys like that, just making a lot of plays for them, being the leader of a championship team. As good as Davion was, Jared Butler was the leader, the alpha dog on that team. And Butler is a really good one-on-one defender. He's not very big, he's not very long, so he'll really be guarding only the point guard, but he is what I would say a one-on-one point of attack type defender. And when you have Trey Young, who definitely cannot do that, that's just another person that can fill in that role and can confidently, make can confidently guard the point guard. If the Knicks didn't take Cam Thomas, I would have taken Thomas over Butler here just because I want another Lou Williams. But I think that Butler is just a really great all around point guard. Totally slept on because of his age and medical condition, and I think that he is a perfect fit in Atlanta too. But quickly before we go to the Knicks again, Lou Williams, what a game! I didn't get to
What a game.
but what a game, man. It's just rallied, beat Milwaukee like that. Unfortunately, Giannis got hurt, and I'd rather see him in than out. I'd rather win this series legitimately than with the other team's best player hurt. But Lou Williams really put on a show, especially in the first half. Same with Kevin Herter. Same with Bogey. Bogey, man, I'm loving it. Dude, back on his thing. Capella hitting the Kobe shot. So Lemon Pepper Lou did his thing. We celebrated today.
We did for sure.
Had had some lemon pepper in his honor, and just really gave the team some confidence, some morale. So big ups to Lou there. But moving on to the Knicks again.
Okay, can I talk a little bit more about Jared Butler for a second?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Because he's a player that I think deserves a little bit more conversation because he is a lottery player. And you
For
just worry
sure.
about that harp. 3 years at Baylor, he led the Big 12 in 3-point shooting ability. I'm gonna be harping on that a lot, just because that's my kind of my go-to. It's never a bad decision to take a guy that can shoot.
Oh no, not at all.
Kevin
That
Herter,
was
example A.
Bogdan Bogdanovich, example B.
Yeah, exactly. So if you can shoot, you're good. He was efficient in the postseason. Um, played
Final four most outstanding player.
played great. He is someone who can lead the team. The only concern with this fit would be he led the conference in usage rate. How would he fit into a Hawks team where he would not be getting the usage at all? Kind of like a Cam Reddish coming into the Hawks. Would that be kind of a similar situation with him?
Yeah, there would definitely be a little bit of a struggle, but coming in at that backup guard spot, especially as we're uncertain about Lou's future with the team, being able to take over the team when Trey is out on the bench, he'll get that role pretty quickly. And you said, if you draft a player that can shoot, they can always make an impact without demanding the ball too much. Always need to keep an eye out on them, and that's where Butler will be doing a lot of his damage, just initially as a shooter and then as a backup playmaker for Trey Young.
I mean, he was number one in defensive win shares last season, number one in offensive box plus minus. So does it all into the floor. Great player. Just hope he can be a player in the future. That's the only concern you have with him.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Moving on to the Knicks again. Jalen Johnson out of Duke definitely fits some need just as like a backup wing, a guy that can play the 3 or 4. But he had a foot injury, quit the team mid-season. I'm not the biggest fan of him, but I see the upside as a playmaker and as a good team defender and as a very versatile defender. In this class, we see a lot of playmaking, we see a lot of versatility, and those are the two big things that Jalen Johnson can potentially offer. He's already a good rebounder, which is not the most crazy skill, but it's definitely a necessity for a team like New York. And his inside scoring is pretty solid, especially in transition as a finisher. We'll need to work on his finishing, or not his finishing, his shooting, his mid range, and some aspects of his IQ and defense. But he measured extremely well, similar to Scotty Barnes, big dude, high long wingspan, great hands. So there's definitely a lot of potential here. A lot of turnovers. Mhm. Hmm. Yeah. Like all American.
See him as a little bit of an overachiever. You're gonna want to see them take a little bit more of a high upside player
Yeah.
like Jalen Johnson.
But the Lakers definitely don't need a high upside player. They need a shooter. And that's what you're getting right here out of Trey Murphy, a guy that hopefully can replace the garbage man of a player that is Kyle Kuzma.
You can't replace Kyle
Murphy,
Kuzma.
what I like
Who's gonna
about
get his
guys,
fashion?
oh, yeah, for sure. Who's going to get the GOAT endorsement? Nah, Team StockX. But he Murphy is a guy coming out of Virginia, 6'9", small forward, power forward that can shoot the ball really well and is a very good defender. He can be a good team defender, which is what LA definitely has and could definitely use more of. But on the offensive end, he's another guy for LeBron to kick out to and shoot. So I can definitely see Murphy is definitely on the rise. Has had really good workouts, really good combine. So I can definitely see him getting on going in the 20s and even as high as 18, 19. But the fit with the Lakers makes, in my opinion, the most sense. And what's not to love about a guy from a school like Virginia or Villanova? They're obviously not the highest upside guys, but they know their role. They can come in. They're always good shooters, always good defenders,
Josh
and
Hart.
they play integral roles on championship teams. If you look at some of the big Villanova guys in the last couple of years, Mikal Bridges, where is he now? Killian in Phoenix. Dante DiVincenzo plays a very important role in Milwaukee. Jalen Brunson, in my opinion, the best or a top three backup guard in the league. Josh Hart is obviously doing his thing. And
Well, I
then
mean, he was just stuck on a bad situation. Great
yeah,
player.
stuck in a bad situation. And then while he's not well, this guy was a superstar at one point and was a multiple time All Star, All NBA player. A guy that kind of embodies Villanova, the do it all ability from shooting to defense to hustle to everything. Kyle Lowry. Um, Not in the Jay Wright era, but still embodies that Villanova culture. But back to Virginia, similar path. You got guys like Joe Harris, DeAndre Hunter, who can just shoot lights out. Guys like Ty Jerome, who are important pieces on certain teams. So I think Trey Murphy can definitely follow in that footsteps.
I just love his
But
shooting ability, man.
me
Came
too.
in from Rice throughout his career, transferred from Rice to Virginia. 93% from the line. Yes, he's a shooter. Um,
Mm,
Shot 40%, 43% last year. Man, he's a shooter.
yeah,
It's what they need. It's what the doctor ordered for the Lakers. But
yeah,
with that being said, they're probably gonna take somebody like Sharif Cooper and just make it the pain of can't shoot town, because this team is they do everything that doesn't make sense. They need shooters. Let's get big guys. Andre Drummond. Let's go.
yeah, talent.
Let's get in Montrezl Harrell, Gasol. Let's just get more big
What does
guys.
Montrezl Harrell do on just out of curiosity?
what
What does
is
Montrezl Harrell do? Like, I've never quite cracked that.
what did Drummond do besides rebound?
Oh no, no! When LeBron took that shot, he was like this and this and this, and he was being entertaining on the bench. That's what he does.
Yeah, worth
Like,
all that. Worth all that for a funny bench guy.
yeah. No, man, you had that in Lance Stevenson too, and he's killing it in China now. We
All
love you,
right,
Lance.
we miss Lance. Lance would be good on that team. Let's move on. Houston Rockets back-to-back picks, 23, 24. Zaire Williams and Sharif Cooper. So talk about those guys. I know we all love Sharif from Atlanta.
Oh yeah, Sharif. I'll get to Sharif soon, but let's first talk about Zaire Williams because I have Zaire being picked ahead. Obviously, great to have another wing. If there's one player that Zaire reminds me of, it is Cam Reddish in terms of broad shoulders, really solid frame, has shooting potential. We saw Cam Reddish go off last night and has potential to be an excellent defender too, with some playmaking in his bag. That is Zaire Williams. That's why he was a top 10 recruit in high school. That's why, even though he was inconsistent and injury plagued at Stanford, is still getting picked in the first round because of that potential. Because some of that is there. He has the intangibles, he has the frame, just needs to put it all together and execute, and he'll be a really, really good player. I think that if everything goes right, Williams is the steal of the draft. And even if they just take Williams at 23, I give this pick a complete A+. And the same thing with Sharif Cooper. And where do I get started on Sharif Cooper, man? Sharif Cooper is apparently listed at 6'4".
What?
They measured him at the combine, and he is apparently 6'4".
That's surprising.
Yeah, that's extremely surprising. I don't think that's true personally. I still think he's 6'1", and if he's grown, it's maybe to like 16.
6'4"? What? I did not. Yeah, I had not heard that.
Yeah, that's crazy, but I don't know if it's an Atlanta thing or if it's just me watching tons of Slam. I am a big Sharif Cooper fan. Playmaking and vision and IQ, the stuff that he displayed in Auburn was truly like beautiful to watch, and those skills translate really, really well to the NBA. He has John Wall as a mentor there too, but Sharif is quick, he's agile, an elite passer. Scoring definitely needs to work on that. Scored at a high volume, just very low efficiency. Struggles with turnovers, and I don't know how good of a defender he'll be, but he brings the leadership, the playmaking, the IQ, and he carries himself very well, which is something I really like. Definitely mature for his age. A guy that is just a gym rat, always in the gym, always working at his craft. Struggled with some adversity in Auburn, couldn't play, but when he came back, he knew he wanted to make a statement. He went out and made a statement, and I think that Sharif is just a perfect player here. And in high school, him, Jalen Green, and Josh Christopher were like the big three, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
If you remember that. All three of them were really close friends. They all did interviews together. They were all McDonald's All-Americans. And I think Sharif, out of the three, was definitely the quietest, but he carried himself the best. He didn't say anything too controversial. He just wanted to work on his craft, wanted to work on his game. And out of him, Green, and Christopher, I think he's the best leader, a guy that can get the locker room going, a guy that can rile up a team to make an impact. So Sharif in Houston fits our timeline. He'll be the guy that will be there for 10 to 15 years. Been there, done that. He's seen the team go from bad to great, and they're going to want him there just because his skills, like, they never get old. Like, if you have an athletic player, they have a certain lifespan, but a guy that has some Chris Paul type skills, those guys never get old. So I think that Sharif is just great in Houston.
Before we head into our next one, take a look at the comments again. We got Rod Simpas back. Let's go, Rod. He says, do you think it's possible some guys don't want to play with LeBron? Yes. I very much think that.
Sure.
Because while LeBron is going to have that allure of a lot of young players, a lot of talent that'll be like, wow, LeBron, I want to play with LeBron. He's the greatest of all time. I mean, we disagree. It's MJ, but that's the allure of LeBron. He's gonna have a lot of young players want to come and play with him. But
Like, you're playing with your idol. The
Yeah,
guy that
exactly.
you grew up watching.
But there's also the saying that you never want to meet your idols. Because I think that it's an interesting dynamic because what LeBron demands in a team and what LeBron wants and how those teams play is a lot of is contrary to a lot of veterans and what they want in teams. I mean, I think that you look at players. I mean, Kyrie wanted out immediately. They had that fun moment, playing with LeBron, but there's always that shadow or the second figure. There's a scapegoat mentality. It's never LeBron's fault. It's got to be someone else, and there's just a lot of blame, a lot of hassle, and it's LeBron's team. He's the coach. He's the head player. He makes all the decisions. It's an environment that I think would be a deterrent for a lot of players. What do you think, Ishan?
Yeah, for sure. It's really, do I want to play with my idol? Like, there's that aspect to it, but there's also, you're never gonna, you're doing what LeBron says. LeBron is your boss. You are the team is not focused on you. It's gonna be focused on LeBron. He's gonna get that special treatment. You're never gonna get that. And a lot of that can be jealousy or envy or however you want to call it, but a lot of players don't like that. A lot of players don't think that LeBron should be treated differently, even as good as he is. He shouldn't have the league baby him because realistically, the league is babying him. But I still think that if you're a calmer, mild mannered guy who knows their role and would like to contribute to a championship contender, then fine, go play with LeBron. But a lot of people, like as you said, get sick of it after a couple of years.
No, I don't want to sound like a LeBron hater. I love LeBron.
Me too. Me too.
I mean, he's. If I could spend a day with LeBron, it'd be the best day of my life because he's just a fun guy.
Yeah,
I feel
great.
like he'd be just a cool guy to be around. But
Mhm.
it's not about him as much as it's about the team. I mean, like look at Michael Jordan. Like he was so hard on his teammates because he wanted to win. Like
He
it's
bullied people to retirement.
exactly like he has such an intensity, and they're not comparable in terms of that aspect, but in terms of a player, a NBA generational player owning a team. I mean, it's the same kind of mentality here. Like LeBron and MJ, it's their team. They call the shots. They're gonna do what they want to do to win because at the end of the day, it's about their legacy. They want to have the best career they could possibly have, and you're
Yeah.
just a guy that's gonna help them do that. So
Yeah. Like
nothing to take
LeBron's
away from
thinking about
LeBron.
it, not you.
Nothing to take away from LeBron. I love LeBron. His comments about the NBA and the scheduling, don't love that, but as a player, as a person, we love LeBron. You know, LeBron
Yeah, for
Slater.
sure. And I will say one player that kind of comes to mind when you think of that same thing is Chris Paul, but it's more with veterans than young players. So if you look at Chris Paul, when he got traded to the Clippers, you had a young Blake Griffin, a young Jordan that were willing to learn from him. But after a while, Chris Paul's direction, Chris Paul's constant quote unquote nagging pissed them off a lot, which led to the breakup. Then in Houston, James Harden couldn't take Chris Paul's instruction, led to him getting traded to OKC. This is a young team with a lot of young guys willing to learn. What does Chris Paul do? He rallies them together. Then he gets traded to Phoenix, another young team with a lot of young guys willing to learn. He rallies them together to a potential finals berth. So I think that these LeBrons, these CP3s, these MJs, they're great for young teams. A lot of young players can build around them, but after a while, after time flies, it can get kind of annoying.
Exactly. Development over fun. Let's just say that.
Yeah.
They want to win. They want
It's
to
a
win.
game. It's a game at the end of the day. And
Exactly.
players know that. But moving on,
Well, CP3 may not.
TV3 may not.
He may not know that.
Yeah. Same with MJ. MJ definitely doesn't
Oh
know
no,
that.
MJ does not know it's a game at all.
No.
It is personal.
It is everything the personal.
All right, move on. Let's go on to number 25, the Clippers, the team that are playing the Suns right now, taking Isaiah Jackson. Talk about this pick a little bit here.
So Jackson is surprisingly the first Kentucky player to come off the board. I think, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
he is. Definitely unfortunate what happened to the team with Terrence Clark. Hopefully he gets something happens in memorial for Clark at draft night, but more on Jackson. The Clippers need a rim protector, a pure rim protector. They swung with Mifyandu Kamengele, didn't work out. They swung with Ibaka. He's had injury issues and has not been the same player. So why not get the best rim protector in the draft in Isaiah Jackson right there? So Jackson averaged 2.6 blocks per game at Kentucky. More of a rim runner, but just an excellent athlete, good shot blocker, and a guy that can get you rebounds and score in the paint. So I think that this team does not have too many needs. They're pretty set at the wings. They're decently set at the guards. They just need to up the front court a little bit, and Jackson will do that for them.
I don't really know how I feel about this pick. Because if you look at the way the Clippers play with Zubac and with Marcus Morris coming up as the big guys, they play a lot of a stretch kind of a system. I know a lot of that was because of what they were doing against the Utah, but they carried that against the Suns as well. They play a lot of a smaller brand of basketball in the front court, and a guy like Isaiah Jackson, who took 2 threes in his entire college career, is something that I don't know how that fits with what they want to do because there's no threat to shoot at all. He's not going to be doing anything remotely trying to stretch the floor. I just don't know how this fits with what they want to do directionally. I know that rebounding ability is impressive at times, but other times there's non-existent. Um, he's a hit or miss player, and I don't know how I would feel about him. Didn't have a great tournament in that loss to Mississippi State. Um, didn't have a particularly great beginning of the season. Came on a little bit at the end in terms of the point scoring load, but I just don't know how I feel about his fit in terms of what the Clippers want to do as a play style.
Yeah, for sure, but I think rim protection is definitely one of the most important skills to have, and he's such a good offensive rebounder. They can definitely experiment with 4 out 1 in system with Jackson inside. My other fear with him is he is not very strong, only 206 pounds, and he's only 6'10", so a tad undersized. But I still think that if they give him the opportunity to, if they highlight his shot blocking, if they highlight his offensive rebounding, 2 extremely important skills, I think that they can definitely get some value out of here. Moving on to Denver, this team is definitely interesting. This is arguably the best roster in the NBA, just from top to bottom. You have the MVP, you have guys like MPJ, Jamal Murray, and then you have a great bench. But they took RJ Hampton, they traded him away to Orlando for Aaron Gordon, and I think that they do need some help with a backup guard. We saw how depleted they were with Will Barton and Jamal Murray hurt. So why not go and get the best guard in the draft and a guy that can help you with on-ball defense, especially at the 1 or 2, something that they need help with in Jaden Springer, big, not too big, but a strong athletic guard who's a great pesky on-ball defender and a pretty solid playmaker too. Needs to do a little bit of work on his shot. The numbers are a little misleading, a little bit too good, in my opinion, overachieved as a shooter. But that's what I mean. Not great volume. But I think that he will make immediate contributions off the bench as a guy that can play off of Campazzo and a guy that can just come in, be a good defender to a Trae Young or to a Steph Curry or to a Damian Lillard. Do it all the time. Yeah, for sure. Moving on to Brooklyn, they take Jeremiah Robinson Earl. We were talking about Villanova guys earlier. Rod was talking about Villanova. Villanova's a top-notch program. 100% agree with you there. And Robinson Earl is another guy who is not flashy, not going to be a big star, but will definitely make an impact. And his biggest skill, in my opinion, is being able to play off ball, which is exactly what you need in a team like Brooklyn with 3 ball dominant superstars and Harden, Kyrie, and Durant. So Earl, really good team defender, really good on-ball defender at times, lacks that athleticism though. On offense, he is a pretty good playmaker, definitely knows where to be, knows his role, knows what spots him and his teammates should be in, and can make the occasional pass inside too. He is strong. He is a good inside scorer, but the off ball play and the IQ on both ends of the floor will definitely be just crucial for Brooklyn. Having another guy that can make all the right plays at the right time will allow them to at least get to the conference finals next year. And with Dinwiddie out, because that's the thing. Blake Griffin and Jeff Green are probably gone, and they were big pieces too. So mm-hmm. Yeah, Sumu, for example, yeah, not the worst. So moving on to Philly, the last Eastern Conference team we'll talk about today. I just see them taking a guard, Ayo Dosunmu, a guy that I'm higher on compared to most people. Big guard, a lot of really good playmaking skills. Turned Illinois into arguably the top regular season team before collapsing in the playoffs. They won the Big Ten. And Dosunmu has that two-way potential, good on-ball defense, good perimeter defense, good playmaking, good IQ. His shot is not the most consistent, but when it's falling, it's definitely falling. And he has a really good inside scoring game with his layup package and some cool dunks and the occasional floater. So just another guy that Philadelphia can use. We saw how good Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry were, and having another guard to rotate with them would make this team so much better, especially with Simmons most likely leaving.
Yeah, it makes sense for them to go this direction. You might want to look at a point guard for this team. Yeah, so it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Phoenix 29. They need one thing, to be honest. They need a guy that can come in and be a good backup for DeAndre Ayton. And that's what Dayron Sharp is. Dayron Sharp is actually the fourth player from that Montverde team that will be selected in the first round. That's got to be a record. Like I know they recruit and obvious and all that. Like
Yeah, it
Caleb
has to be.
Texas, Scotty is from a different part of Florida. Moody's from Arkansas. Sharp, I forget where he's from, but I think he might be from New York. But Dayron Sharp, really, really good rebounder, especially a good offensive rebounder. A lot of hustle and some solid playmaking skills. What I saw when I was watching him was his use of the touch pass to get guys inside. If you know Armando Big Hot, another guy that might get selected in the second round, but will probably stay one more year at UNC, he was getting a lot of passes inside to him, a lot of passes out to their perimeter creators. So Dayron Sharp is only 19, and he reminds me a lot of Isaiah Stewart. Not the sexiest prospect. You might think he's even outdated, but he's a big guy, 6'11, 265, can score inside, pure interior big man, can get rebounds, especially offensive rebounds, which is key.
Yeah, 14 a game total.
And defend at a decently high level, but be a solid playmaker. That will be vital because if DeAndre Ayton ever gets hurt, Sharp can step in and be that guy.
All right, wrapping it up. Last guy. Someone who I've seen as high as 14 on some big boards and some I've seen
Wait,
as low.
14?
Yeah, and some I've seen as low as not drafted at all. So, a prospect with mixed opinions. JT
Definitely
Thor.
mixed.
Break it
Definitely
down.
mixed. A lot of mixed opinions, in my opinion, just because his draft stock has been soaring after his crazy workouts, but he is 6'9", really good size, really good length. I think a 7'1", 7'2" wingspan, has the ability to defend multiple positions and be that versatile wing defender that Utah wants. But his most intriguing thing is his shooting. Wasn't a great shooter in college, didn't put up the best production, but he has been killing it as a shooter in these workouts. And I wonder if that does translate to the NBA because Utah's here at 30. There are obviously 29 guys selected ahead of him for good reason, but it would be cool for Utah to take a swing on JT Thor like they did on Donovan Mitchell by trading for him. And you know what? Maybe you get really, really good 3 and D value, or you get nothing at all, and you only sacrifice pick number 30.
It's just from now on the rest of the draft. It's just can he be a good player for me? I don't know. We'll see. So that'll do it for us. Any players you want to mention?
Yeah, I was gonna mention.
So there's a couple guys that I wanted to talk about that you didn't have the first round. First one, I don't know how to say his name, but the guy at Utah State, Nemias Quetta, the center.
Yeah.
He is someone that's very interesting. Just great numbers: 18 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 4 blocks, and 1 steal. 7 foot as well. Someone who's a very intriguing prospect, but at a lower level of competition. What did you make of Naimus? I don't know how to say his name. I'm not gonna pretend like I know.
Yeah, I don't know either. I've heard some good things about him. I haven't watched him too much, but what I have heard is that he has been rising up due to his really good combine play. I saw some of the box scores from the combine in those 5-on-5s, and he's definitely been playing really well. It's a really good opportunity for small school guys to show what they got, and I think that he definitely can make his way early in the second round as a big guy because a lot of guards were taken early on by these bad teams, but you definitely want to get a backup big or potentially a starting big right there. Two guys or three guys that I really want to talk about were Bones or Nishan Bones Highland out of VCU, just an electric scorer, great shooter, a guy that I can definitely see in the first round. Quentin Grimes, former 5-star, went to Kansas, was supposed to be a top 10 pick, did not play very well there. Went to Houston. They became the 2 seed, made a Final Four run. He was arguably the best player on that team and has been killing it in the combine and the pro days. Probably the biggest winner of the last 2 weeks. He can definitely see himself getting the first round. And a guy that I am really, really high on, shoot, I don't even know how to say this, but Sandro Mamukelashvili. We'll just call him Mamu. So Mamu was the Big East Player of the Year, and the Big East is obviously a really good conference. He played for Seton Hall, and you have teams like Villanova, St. John's, Creighton, like that. A lot of great competition there. But 17 points per game, 7.6 rebounds, 3.2 assists. But what's really interesting is some of the passes that he made were just beautiful. He is a point center, if there even is one. And I think that we've seen what Jokic can do. And I'm not going to say he's Jokic level because his assist numbers were not as high as I liked, and his turnover numbers were definitely a little bit high. But like Cade Cunningham, the low assist numbers are definitely not an indicator of his playmaking ability. He's made some great passes, no lookers, finding guards for threes, finding other big men for interior shots. He's a guy that I can definitely see in the bottom of the first round, and he is another Montverde Academy player. So they could potentially have 5 guys in the first round.
Well, let's do a little quick fire here. Dacian Nix from the G League. What do you make of his performances? 12, 7, and 7 in the G League at 19.
Yeah, for sure. I really liked him. Definitely dropped some weight. Looks a little bit slimmer. Same thing with Luka Garza. He's definitely a little bit quicker, more mobile now. Obviously, not the flashiest scorer, but a really good facilitator and playmaker and leader who definitely helped himself while by staying in the G League. I will say McKinley Wright is another guard to watch out for from Colorado. Really, really good perimeter defender, really good playmaker, and from the workouts that I saw, is a solid shooter. And then a guy that me and you both love, Moses Wright out of Georgia Tech, definitely undersized, but has a 7 foot wingspan and has a lot of potential to be an interior force. So definitely a guy that I want to see get selected in the second round. Jose Alvarado, too, ACC Defensive Player of the Year as a point guard.
Leader.
Yeah, leader, Defensive Player of the Year as a point guard. His issue is age. He's 23, and he might come back to Tech.
Same with Moses as well.
Yeah, same with Moses. They hired agents, but they still retain their eligibility. I'd love to see him drafted and go pro because if Trey Jones could go pro, I think Jose Alvarado can go pro too. Like
If Marcus George's Hunt can go pro, Jose Alvarado can go pro.
yeah,
A lot of you guys might
Alvarado,
not know who he is, but he was a star point guard for Georgia Tech, or shooting guard for Georgia Tech like
yeah,
5 years ago. Very fun, but not the same defensive player at all.
no, and not the same leader as Alvarado. So I definitely want to see him get drafted. And then other guys: Jericho Sims, Josh Christopher,
Kofi
Kofi,
Cockburn, Matthew Hurt,
Matt Hurt, Miles McBride, and even Greg
Terrence
Brown,
Shannon.
Terrence Shannon too. Just this is a really, really good draft class. A lot of depth, a lot of potential for just really, really good role players, and also all-star, all-NBA players like Cunningham and Mobley. But that will wrap up the mock draft. Definitely one of the fun episodes we've done. I think we'll get one more iteration of this before the draft, just because I don't know how much is going to change now that everything is done. Just a couple workouts here and there. But if you like this, stay tuned for more content. The Suns game is tonight. They have a potential to make the finals for the first time since the Charles Barkley era, and for Chris Paul's first time. That's something that we can definitely talk about tomorrow if it does happen. We got the Hawks. Look, as your friend Kavi and as my friend Dylan said,
Hawks and six,
got it.
baby.
Hawks and six, baby. I believe. I believe in Lou. I believe in Trey when he comes back. I believe in Bogey. I believe in John Collins. I believe in Clint Capella. So definitely another thing we'll talk about. And we'll get some NFL content out there. Not been too much going on in the league, but when that top 100 finally comes out on TV, we'll definitely have some things to say about that.
For sure. So we're gonna plan to go live during the draft. Love seeing this sport today. I think it was a pretty good show in terms of viewership. I thought we did a pretty good job.
Excellent.
Thanks to everyone out there watching the show. I'd love to see it. As always, check out Rod in the description. Lunar Realms on Spotify. Plug that. We're gonna plug that for a while.
Yeah, that's just gonna be our intro music. Rod, I really hope you're okay with that.
We took far away.
copyright
We
this.
took far away. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
30-second clip. You can't copyright that. That's free use, and according to YouTube, if it's less than 30 seconds, we're fine. So that'll do it for today. Thank you for watching. If you have any comments, make sure to leave those below. Subscribe as always, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.
Peace.